You are listening to the IFH Podcast Network. For more amazing filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts, just go to ifhpodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to the Successful Screenwriter Podcast, where we discuss anything and everything screenwriting. Here we interview successful screenwriters and filmmakers to find out just what it takes to make it in the industry. Just a heads up, this episode is brought to you by my book, The Guide for Every Screenwriter, which has been listed as one of the best screenwriting books of all time by the Book Authority. If you're looking for something that reveals the secrets of screenwriting in an easy to understand and engaging way, then this is the book for you. You can find The Guide for Every Screenwriter at thesuccessfulscreenwriter.com/books. Now, on to the show. All right, welcome to the podcast. I have an awesome guest on today, Andrea Janakas, and she is a filmmaker, director, writer, and, well, I mean, you've done some really cool stuff. You did this short film, Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves, and you've kind of blown up from there.
Well, thanks for having me on, and I think the blow up is kind of a, it's been kind of a slow igniting flame and that's been sort of sizzling into maybe a campfire, which which eventually will hopefully be more of a blow up. Yes.
Yeah. The quote overnight success that you spent, I'm sure, a lifetime working on, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I love that.
Total overnight success. Yeah.
I had never done it before. Yeah.
I didn't even, I just wrote one thing and then that was it.
All right. Well, AJ, I want to get your origin story and what kind of led you into this simmering campfire.
The simmering campfire. Well, the simmering campfire began in a small town north of Boston. So that's where I'm from, small town. And, I kind of hate to admit this, but the TV was on all the time at my house. And the American Pediatric Association would be like, this is very bad. But the TV was on. We literally had like a TV on in every room in the house. And in hindsight, it's, kind of worked out because I'm a TV writer now.
I mean, it's funny that you say that because I'm a Gen Xer, latchkey kid. So I grew up on TV and I'm like, our generation is becoming like the best filmmakers because that's all we grew up on. That was our education.
Okay. Yes. I mean, I remember like Amazing Stories, the original Amazing Stories.
Oh yeah.
Sundays,
oh my
right?
God. Yeah, that's awesome.
On 80 Kid here. And so it was like, or like reruns of the Twilight Zone or whatever would be on.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
I think that was just sort of all seeping into the subconscious a bit. So I don't think that's a bad thing. So between that and a lot of books, and this is really funny because my mom was an avid reader of Stephen King. And so I was more interested in her reading Stephen King. And so she basically would read a chapter at night and then she'd summarize it to me.
That's so cool.
Before bed. Oh. So I was like, okay, so chapter 10 of Pet Sematary.
That's so awesome.
She'd edit out like the really scary, I don't want to say, but it was, so between all of that, I think, I certainly had some interest in storytelling and whatnot. That's amazing. So from there, the funny thing is my parents loved TV, but they really wanted me to be a lawyer. And so if I told them I wanted to make movies or write TV, they would have been like, you're completely nuts.
Right.
But I studied journalism in undergrad.
Oh, okay.
And I thought that could be a pathway to like, journalism to maybe law school. And so I did journalism at Emerson in Boston. And then, that leads to an LA program. And then once I kind of came out to LA, I was like, woo, no law school. I'm going to go to film school. So I'm free from small town.
That's awesome.
And then that led to, between that point of undergrad and grad school, I worked as an assistant, assistant to a producer, assistant in development, and really just, kind of did that guide, did script coverage, all of that.
Oh, good.
So many of us have that story. And then finally ended up at AFI for grad school.
Wow. It's it's fantastic seeing that you really put the work in and you really became a student of this, even from being like
Exactly.
little.
Even at 7. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like my wife read to my son at 5. She's reading him Lord of the Rings.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
So
I have a 2-year-old right now, and I'm like
aw,
so ready to like prime
awesome.
him for,
Yeah.
so,
So fantastic. All right. So you created this Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves, and it was a hit. I mean, it's got a lot of people are loving it.
so Gypsies was my thesis film at AFI, and I went to AFI. Actually, it wasn't journalism to screenwriting. It was actually interesting. It was journalism to directing.
Okay.
Because, when I was actually at Emerson in undergrad, even though I was studying journalism, I was making short films. I was, still kind of exploring that path. And so, so I kind of saw myself as a writer director.
Yeah.
Applied AFI, got in, and then went into the directing program. And Gypsies was the thesis film. It starred Amanda Seyfried and Annie Quinn.
Wow.
And and it was sort of interesting because in making the thesis, it was Amanda at the time had done Mean Girls, and she had done a number of projects, and people had known Amanda.
Yeah.
And we got this short script to her, for no money. And she called it was like Christmas Eve, and she was like, left me this really nice message and was like, I love this. I want to do it, and so kind of goes to show you how there's, really great actors out there too, that when they, connect to material.
Yeah. They love the script, and you can
they'll do it. Yeah. So, and then that film did the festival circuit, and, and won a few awards here and there and stuff. And then that's what got my manager on board. And I got my representation for the first time.
It's your resume. I mean, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, the short, when you're, whether you're going to grad school or you're not going, or you're just making, shorts on your own or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. That's kind of an initial calling card. It's definitely a good way, whether you're a writer or director, both.
So what was the driving influence of this short? I mean, you made this short because you wanted to show off your skills. Did you have the intent of like, I am going to put everything I have into this to show people what I can do to try and grab work?
Absolutely. I mean, like we shot the short on 35.
Oh, wow. Are you serious?
Yeah. And I like
Old
to say
school.
I like to say it's the last short film shot on 35 millimeter. I like to go down in history as that.
That's amazing.
But it was shot on 35. It was extremely ambitious short. It was like we shot in the snow, there was practical effects. We shot nights. I mean, everything you're not supposed to do for short film.
Did you work with children and animals?
We almost worked with the animals. There was supposed to be this scene. There was supposed to be this great scene with all these turkeys at this farm, and
oh my god,
night, and these young girls run through it, and the producers kept trying to get turkeys.
I was gonna say a producer is probably like, no.
And then at one point they were like, AJ, we gotta curb this at some point.
That's hilarious.
Reel
her in.
Yeah, absolutely, reel her in. And I also, my cinematographer is the great Melina Matsoukas, who is now a huge director. She was a music video director and then some. And so and we had just a great time working on that, as wild a short as it was,
That's amazing.
It was a good way to wrap up AFI too.
Yeah.
Putting everything into it, and literally, I will say on that very last, it was kind of an all-night shoot, and coming down, we shot in Big Bear, coming down the mountain, sun's coming up, wrap the shoot, and I had this feeling in my heart like, I want to do this for the rest of my life. And I actually, it's kind of funny though, because I actually thought that would be directing, and that's the path I kind of followed out of the gate, and has kind of switched as my career has gone on. But it was this sort of feeling like this was the hardest thing I've ever done, and also the greatest thing I've ever done.
That's amazing.
So if you can feel that when you're making something, I mean, that's really what you want.
Yeah. You're feeling your calling, right?
Yeah,
you're realizing it. Absolutely. Do you find, well, I'll get on this other tidbit in a second, but I have noticed some directors end up becoming more writers. When they start finding more work, they'll start finding more work as a writer instead of a director. Is that something that you feel like is kind of happening in your career right now?
Absolutely. Yeah. So when I, kind of moved from the short, I was really focused on directing, and I was trying to direct indie features. I had a couple of my own that I had written, but I also was very open to directing other
Right.
people's work. And, I'd been attached to a couple of projects, and it was like slow, slow going. I mean, it's, trying to get financing together.
Oh yeah.
And it was just, I have to say too, it was just around this time of, it was before like a movie like Tangerine or something where, people are shooting something on their phone and being really inventive like that. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it was hard. So it was like, okay, what else, how can I be working in this business?
Yeah.
And not feel like I'm begging people for money for my movies and stuff, which is,
but that's the truth of it,
Yeah. I mean, it's just so and TV was the outlets of TV and the streaming services were becoming so hot,
Yeah.
and you had like Amazon, you have Hulu, you have, right. And TV was just getting more and more amazing.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe I should just try to write a TV pilot, just a spec, or even a spec off of a show or something, and see if maybe there's a way to navigate into the business that way more.
And so is that something that you pursued? Did you write the spec and then got some attention with that? Or did somebody know you and then kind of started bringing you into the television industry?
Yeah, nobody was bringing me into the TV industry. So
no, but nobody said, "Hey, come on in." We've been
no.
Oh,
so
okay.
it wasn't totally like that. I wish it was. So basically, I just started looking at all the programs, and so and all the contests and competitions and stuff.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, maybe I can make some headway that way. And I first started writing a couple of just like specs on existing shows. And so I had written I wrote a Homeland one, and I wrote like a Vampire Diaries one and stuff. And
cool.
And that made a little bit of traction in some of the like diversity programs where you can, the WB and stuff, but I didn't nail a slot in those, but it gave me like a little bit of like, okay, like I've gotten the interview, I got really far, like,
it's encouraging.
It's encouraging, right? Like, and encouragement is what we need in this business, just to keep any encouragement.
I'm not going to accuse you of it, but there tend to be some insecure writers out there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think we all are, and we're self-sabotaging and all of that, imposter syndrome, and it just goes on and on the list. So anytime you can get some encouragement that's not a family member, right, or your spouse, it's nice. So and then from there I was like, I'm going to write I'll write an original pilot. And the first one that I wrote was a crime drama, and it was set in Navajo Nation. And I submitted that to Austin for their screenwriting festival. Very cool. I was a top 3 finalist in their teleplay competition.
Awesome.
And that was even a much further stride. And I had at that point, I had my manager and my agent, and I had them, mostly because of my short and some of the like feature indie stuff that I was doing, because I had gotten into some labs with the indie feature stuff. Like I had done Tribeca All Access.
Oh, cool.
And I had done Film Independent Screenwriters Lab and stuff.
You're doing the circuit.
So I had done the circuit. And so, my agent did come on, but she was very excited because she's actually a TV agent that I was starting to write television.
Awesome.
And when the Austin thing happened, she was like, okay, let's stay the course with this, let's keep, you're going to need a couple more samples, but let's, but this one's going to at least start getting you meetings and start getting you generals.
What I love about this, AJ, is how methodical you were about strategizing your plan for success, because I talk to a lot of screenwriters and I teach as well. And they love to write, but they don't know how to get the baby steps forward. And just kind of listening to your path of, you made the great short film, you got the attention, it opened up a couple of doors, you got the meetings, you took advantage of that. Then you analyze the whole niche of, okay, where can I go? Television is good. And then you planned it out. And that is how you do it. And you're like living proof of it. I think this is absolutely fantastic. You can't hear that. Okay.
You left me speechless.
I thought I lost you.
I think we end on a high note. Okay,
Oh, no.
well, it's been really nice.
We're not done yet. I'm gonna let you out soon.
Because there's the exciting highs and lows that come from this point forward, of course. But no, but you're right in the sense that it's funny because at that point I was also I had written that pilot. It was getting more traction. My agent said, keep writing pilots. And then simultaneously I started teaching. Cool. Like you, I started teaching at the Art Institute. And I was teaching screenwriting part-time, and I was telling my students exactly what you just said, because I was speaking from my experience of, this is where I am right now, right? And this is how I got there. And this is where you are right now. And this is what you can do to get now to this point. And I think it's really helpful you have to put on a little bit of a business hat, right? And you have to have a sensibility in terms of like how you want to navigate your time. Yeah. And you can spend 5 years trying to make your passion project, which absolutely, and I think that is great as well, but there's also, if you have, a child, if you have a family, you have mouths to feed, if you need health insurance.
There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with a day job. There really isn't. No, I would never judge anybody, nor should you be judged for you need health insurance. You know what I mean? So like all of these things, it's fine to do that. But the other thing I tell my students, AJ, I don't know if this is something you mentioned, but like you have to be ready skill-wise for that step. I know, because a lot of writers get that passion. They feel, I want to do this. I love this. It's like, that's great, but you're not there yet. You have to get yourself there, and it takes time. And it's not an insult.
And you need material too. The other thing is that, it's a big, if you start, getting those meetings, right? And somebody reads a sample and they like the sample and it's gotten the meeting, but they don't want to maybe do that project. And they say, well, what else do you have? I was teaching my students like, well, what else do you have is that big question. And if you don't have anything else at that moment or nothing else to kind of talk about, and months go on, and then a year later you try to circle back with that person.
Yeah, definitely.
You might not even be at that job anymore.
Yeah, so. Build out your portfolio.
Absolutely.
Now, I wanted to ask you, because I know I've kept you, but I wanted to ask you, what kind of themes do you like to play with when you're writing or directing?
It has kind of varied a bit.
Do you find it reflects where you are in life and kind of growth as a person?
Sometimes it does, but that's not really intentional, I guess. Okay. I feel like that's almost oddly like the universe will like kind of bring projects that I go, oh, like,
oh, really?
How did you know that I'm going through that stage in my life? Or how did you know that now I'm a mother and I have this project of this mother who has lost her son or what, right? Yeah. And that's been an interesting course, because it's it's like almost
cathartic.
It really is. It is kind of a cosmic thing. Yeah. Where lately a lot of the projects have found me.
That's awesome.
And or all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, I'll see an article or something that's like just truly resonates, and it again has kind of just come out of some strange way. Yeah. And I think like, oh, I'd really like to develop that. Like, I feel like that's something I like to do right now in my life,
It's for you, it's becoming quite personal, part of your own journey, which is, that's just beautiful. All right. Before I let you go, I want to kind of get a sneak peek into what it's like right now, developing for television, I think pre-production.
Yeah. So, the career stuff kind of segued a bit, and I didn't have kind of the normal, a lot of people have that kind of journey of like, they got a job on like support staff on a show.
Right. Yep.
And then got scripts and were able to, be a staff writer or
Yeah,
whatnot.
they work their way up the chain.
Oh my God, I kept trying to do that so bad. And it was really, really challenging. I did end up getting into a room and, and so with a great showrunner named John Rogers. And that was sort of a first experience, but literally like, I thought I could kind of hop from room to room and get scripts and that would sort of be the career. And what has happened is from that point, I actually got on 2 pilot writing jobs.
That's awesome.
And which is just such a kind of a unique route and not something that I had intended or thought could happen, but did. And that, so it's been a very kind of different experience than being staffed in a room on a show,
because you're coming in ground floor. So you've probably got some significant influence on the direction of the characters in the show itself.
Yeah, I mean, to a point, both of those particular projects are book adaptations.
Oh, that's awesome.
IP, which is great and it's interesting because I also now I look back in hindsight and so much of my work has been in some way based on IP, even the short.
Oh, okay.
The short was based on a short story that I got the rights to. And from there, it's interesting that has kind of,
you're like in a little niche now. You're the
way.
That's cool.
So there's, so you definitely, I think on both projects, both pilot writing projects, the producers have given such flexibility in terms of exploration on that. But in order to get those jobs, you have to do a pitch take on that, right?
Right.
Read the book.
Yep.
You come up with your take of, how you would adapt the material. And that's what they're hiring you off of is that.
Yeah.
And so
it's a big interview, basically. Yeah. Well, that's pretty amazing. Before I let you go, AJ, is there anything I should have asked you that I haven't asked you already?
No, I think
we covered it.
You really covered it. Yeah, it was really enjoyable. I could actually do this for 2 more hours, but I know this is only 20 minutes. So
no, it's fine.
Maybe I'll return again when the campfire has totally blown up.
Once your show is like post-pro and it's coming on streaming, you're coming on the show. There's no question.
I'm back with you. You'll be my first interview.
Oh my God, that's so sweet of you. Thank you so much. I am there. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share in your social media where you can tag us at The Successful Screenwriter.